G'day and welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Today I've got this old chassis. It's from 1933. It has a problem which I've got to diagnose, so it might be a bit of fun. We'll do a bit of troubleshooting. This belongs to one of the people at the radio club. He had it restored about 10 years ago, I think, and he said he turned it on the other day and it didn't work. So something's gone wrong in the last 10 years just sitting around. This was made by AWA, as I said, 1933. AWA is Amalgamated Wireless Australia. It's a super heterodyne, and this was made in the changeover from TRF sets to super heterodyne. So some of the layout of it and the way they did things is different to what they did later on. And even perhaps another 2 or 3 years later, they'd got to the stage where they'd sort of got it all worked out, and all the sets were pretty much the same layout. If we have a look from the top, the tuning capacitor is shielded, the valves or tubes are all shielded, but there's 2 little coils in here, and they're not shielded at all. The speaker's a little bit unusual. It has the standard output transformer. It has a field coil, but it also has a choke. They don't normally have a choke if they've got a field coil. So that's something I haven't come across before. That's a bit different. I have the radio and the speaker on the board here. The speaker is hardwired into the chassis, so I can't unplug it. So I thought it's probably better on the board. Actually, the owner gave it to me like this. Transformer, and of course the tuner. It has got a 3-gang tuner in there, so that's interesting. There's the number of the chassis. You can see it's C105. This chassis would have been used in various radios, so the whole radio would have a different model number, but the chassis number stays the same. It's got a phono input there, and this will be for an external speaker. I've flipped it up on its end. There's the 3 valves there. This looks like a capacitor, and there's a resistor behind there as well. There's things, that there is a capacitor as well. There's a bunch of capacitors in there, and if I bend down, they've got all new wires going in there, so those have all been replaced. There'll be coils in here. There'll be IF coils, I should think. This piece of phenolic probably has resistors and capacitors mounted on the back of it. There's another one of those early capacitors, and there's some new replacement filter capacitors. That's the volume pot, I think, and I think that one will be the tone. It's only got 2 wires on it, so that'll be the tone. There's a little choke there. That probably chokes off RF getting into the amplifier stage. I've had a good look around here. Everything looks fine. I can't see any issues with wiring or anything. So I'll turn it over, we'll turn it on, we'll see what the symptoms are. Just before I turn it over, I just noticed there's cockroach droppings here on the board. I guess they're falling out of the radio, so it's been infested with cockroaches at some point. I've got everything connected. I've put an antenna on. I'll put it on dim bulb. We've got 233. I'll just take it up a little bit. Should be 240 odd. That'll do. See what happens. Bulb came on. Went off. While this is warming up, I'll just say I don't have a schematic. I couldn't find one online. I ended up buying one off Mike at the Code Machine, and he's usually pretty good. I usually get it within an hour or so of ordering it. But I haven't heard from him for 2 days, so I don't have a schematic. I hope he's okay. So I'm going to have to wing it a bit, and as I said earlier, this design will not be the same as what they used in later years. I can hear a slight hum from the speaker. I'll tune it up, see if I can find something. Should be something around there. No, there's nothing. It's dead. No one home. I'll take these caps off, and I'll be able to see if I can input a signal, or at least see if the signal's getting through. I'll get the antenna wire. It seems to have an RF stage, so we'll skip that stage. There's something there. Something there. So it appears the amp's working. Yeah, even that one's got something. This is the antenna wire to the radio. There's nothing there. I'll go straight to the terminal. Nothing there either. No noise. So it's here, but not at the antenna. I'll put the aerial straight on there. Actually, I'll go there. We'll see if we can tune anything there. Nope. Go back there. No, it's quiet. Full power. The owner's been running it on full power, so it was only 180, so that may not have been enough to get anything. Although it was working, wasn't it? Alright, we'll see if it tunes now. No. No, not a squeak. So what do we got here? It won't tune. I can touch that on there and it comes through the speaker. So that means that the signal is getting from this grid all the way through the radio and coming out of the speaker. So the amp is working to some degree, and I guess all these valves are working to some degree. But if I touch the antenna, nothing. There's absolutely no noise getting through. I'm not 100% sure what these coils are for. I bet one's an antenna coil, and one will be for connecting that first stage of the tuner to that RF valve on the start there. Yeah, I really don't know how this works. I wish I had a schematic. But I'll think that's an RF coil. This is probably the antenna coil that connects the antenna terminal into the radio. I'm having a look around this coil for corrosion spots. I can see something down there. You can see that little spot there. That may be a break in the wire, a bit of corrosion there. I'll see if I can brush it off. Might be just a bit of something on there. I'll take some valves out so I can see better. There it is. It's not coming off. I don't think it's a break. I don't think it's a break. I've followed that coil, and these two terminals here are either end of it. And what do we got? About 37 ohms or so. I don't think that's anything. I think it's a little white spot on there. I'll flip it up, have a look underneath again. I was having a look around and I noticed something inside the volume control. So I looked in here and look, there's some broken wires on the volume control. I think in earlier sets they used to run the antenna coil ground through these volume pots, and maybe the cathode ground for the front end valve. I think I need to remove this. I'll take it out and we'll see what value it is, and maybe I can rig something up and see if we can get the radio to work. I've removed the control from the radio and I'm looking around here. I can't see that it's a log pot. The gaps on the wire are consistent all the way around. So I think it's a linear pot. There's a terminal down here. It lines up with this end of the resistor. So I'll put that on there. The first break is about here. So I'll try and get my meter on there. And we'll measure the resistance hopefully. And it's 1.8. 1.9. 1.93. No, we're going past the break. So let's call that 2K, and that is from there to there to there. Look, it's probably about a third, so we're probably looking for a 600K pot. The closest I'll have will be 500K, so I'll give that a try. I've tacked that volume control in. It is tacked in. There's the earth wire. I've just wrapped it around a hole there. Anyway, it'll be enough to make sure it works. I've turned it over the right way, put some power on it again. That is making noise already. I hear crackling inside. That pot may not be able to handle the current flow through it. It doesn't work. Damn. My kingdom for a schematic. Something went pop, and it may well have been that. May have just burnt it out. I'll try rubbing on the antenna again. Oh, there's noise. There's noise there. There's a glow in all those, but we expect that because they're working. The output tube is hot. Rectifier is hot. There's the phono jack. I can see if the signal's there. There you go. Yeah, so that amplifier is definitely working. There's the buzz. Alright, so the volume control didn't fix it, but what I'll do is I'll run the IF frequencies through it and see if we can pick that up. So put power on again. I'll use my leader signal generator to create the signal, and I'll use that because I can sweep through the dial and find where the IF is. And I can read the output from it down on this counter here. So I've got the generator wire going straight on the antenna. I'll see if I can find it. The IF should be 175 for this. Can't hear anything. Can't hear anything. I'll connect the generator to the grid of this first valve and see what happens. Oh, there it is. Oh, right on. Yeah, look, it's 202. Oh, no. It's supposed to be 175. I'm not sure that's going to be the issue. I've set the generator so I can hear the sound. It's not 175, but I'll see if I can bring it closer. There's the 4 tuning capacitors for the IF. I'm on the back one there, see what happens. Not having any effect. Those two don't seem to be doing anything. Try these front ones. It's not doing much either. Try this one. Let's bring it in. I'll wind this down to 175. No, I won't. About there. I'll bring it down a bit more. Doesn't like that, does it? Okay, 175 coming up. That'll do. I'll adjust this one a bit more. Okay, I'll try this one now. I'm on this one now. This doesn't want to move. Seems to be about right where it is. Just on the last one. That one doesn't seem to do much at all. I'm a little embarrassed. I forgot to put that link back on the phono terminals here. So I've put that back on. I've connected my meter and I went through and I adjusted them all and they all started to adjust. I could see it on the meter and they are all tuned now to 175. So the IF alignment is correct. I'll give it a quick tune through. I don't think it'll work. Won't make any difference. No, there's nothing there. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I have had radios before that wouldn't work because the IFs were out. So that gets rid of that problem. Now I do have another idea what might be wrong. I haven't been able to get a circuit from Mike at the code machine. So I reached out on Facebook today and came up with this. It's the circuit. My good friend Mike at the radio club said, "There you go, mate. Done." As I said earlier on, this was a transition from tuned radio frequency type circuits to super heterodynes, and there was leftovers from the old way of thinking into the new. It took them a couple of years to sort it out, and then they came up with a pretty standard sort of flow. But this is different to what you would see 2 or 3 years later. Now with the circuit I can see how that volume control works. Here it is here, and as I said, it grounds out the antenna coil, but I said it was going to ground out the ground here, the earth, but it actually grounds out the active or the input. And it also comes up here, and I think it's that one, yeah, and it increases the bias on this IF amp in the middle here, and that will reduce the volume. So it's reducing the volume of the tube here, or the valve, and also reducing the antenna signal up here. It also says it's 3K, and I've put a 5K in there. Now let's try and logic this out. I put the signal on here and it went all the way through the radio. I put it on over here and had nothing. So therefore you would think one of these coils is open, unless the tuning capacitor is that far out it's not aligned properly to let it through. There's a tuning capacitor there and the other one's there, and there's one down here on the oscillator. There it is. So I think I should check for continuity between here, yeah, all these coils. I'll check the continuity of the coils. A bit earlier I checked the continuity between here and here, thinking I was checking that coil. That's in fact not correct. I'm actually checking this coil and the little one down the bottom. So these two are intact, which brings me to this one. This is a single coil. It's this one here on the circuit. I've got my meter across the coil. It's reading something. I'll remove these two wires here and check it again with a multimeter. I've removed this valve to make it a bit easier for me. You can see the corrosion spots there, I think. And we'll see what we've got. It's got 4 ohms, so there is continuity there. Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. I thought I was onto something there. I'll take the cover off this tuning capacitor, see what's going on in there. Maybe it's full of cockroaches. That's pretty much what you would expect. I assume it is turning, isn't it? Yeah, it's moving. It's not full of cockroaches. There's a slater up there. It's not going to do much. I think it's time for a reset. What I'm doing is not working. I approached the troubleshooting from the point that it had been repaired. It sat around for a few years and now it doesn't work. I need to go back and do some basic troubleshooting, and to do that I'm going to start by checking some of the voltages. These are the 3 valves in the shields along the edge. These 2 here are the filaments. This one's the plate, and we should have 200 something volts on it. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, we'll try again. This time I've got power on it. There we go. So that's the plate. What's this? This is the screen grid. It's only got a volt on it. This is the suppressor grid. That should be, virtually a volt. There's nothing there. Now, why didn't I check that in the first place? What's this? The same one on this valve? Same. Can't see the other one. I'm sure it's the same. There's the wires going off to each of those grids. There's 2 wires going up to there. There's a red wire running down there. I assume this is a box of capacitors. And the other one is this one here. That's going down to here, I think. Yeah, that's it there. So if I probe that, I'll get my 1 volt again. Now these usually just have a resistor across here. So if I probe that, we've got 291. So that's B+. That's too high. So there's probably a burnt out resistor behind there. I'll take these screws out. There's the wire there I was probing, and this is the resistor next to it, so it must have open circuit. I'll see if I can remove it. There it is, LRS. It's 11K and 5 watt. Oh, that's interesting, because here it is here, 11K, and they've got 1 watt on the schematic. I think that might be wrong. That resistor provides power to 2 57s and a 58 valve, and I looked up the specs for a 57, and the plate should be about 250 max and the screen should be 100 max, so that means there's a 150 volt drop. To calculate that, it's voltage divided by current. No, it's voltage squared divided by current, so it's 150 multiplied by equals, yeah, that's right, and then divided by 11 equals, yeah, it's going to be over 2 watts, or just on 2 watts. So 1 watt won't be enough. I found this 10k resistor in my spares box, and it's measuring exactly 10k. I might try that. Otherwise I'm going to have to use 3 5-watters to get up to 11k. It's going to be a bit crowded in there. I'll see how that goes. Provided the screen grid's not over 100 volts, it'll be fine. I've got the replacement resistor in here now, and earlier on in the video I said I needed a 3k pot, and then suddenly went to 300k and replaced it with a 500k pot. So this is way over what it should be. I have another pot here and it's just short of 3k. We'll see if that works or not. And there it is there. I don't think it's wire wound. I'm not sure how much current it'll tolerate. So let me fit that in and we'll see what happens. As I said, the new resistor's in, the new pot is in. Let's put some power on. Should be warmed up now, I think. Oh, we got something. Ah, there we go.
Oval. 40 needed off 37. Wareham tosses this up, hit away into the offside. It beats the dive of Litchfield. Coming around is McGrath. From long off to keep them down to 1. So what for? He's off the... Demo's run it up. Is it still...
Forced Yemen's President Saleh from power.
After the running of the first, but the punters get off to the right note. They've run 124.6.
Yeah, it's about all I'm going to get. Oh no, that slips that dial.
3, 8, 4, 6.
Alright, well it's working. Fantastic, and I'll just put it back here.
You really want these two batters out there to take them either very, very close to Australia's total or across the line.
So there's no automatic gain control on this, so it's loud on the stronger stations, but that volume control seems to work quite well.
Coming back on the bowl.
So I know it works. I'll turn that off. I'll check the voltages now that I have this slightly undervalued resistor in here. This is the plate and this is the screen. So the plate should be 250 or under 250, and it's coming up to 35, 240, and this one should be under 100. It's just under 100, so that'll do. It'll be fine. I'll see if I can free up this tuning condenser. There's a little pivot here. I can put some oil in there if I can get it in. There you go. At the front of the tuner it seems to be just running in the plate here. I'll see if I can drop some oil on that. That's freed it up completely, so I'll put a bit of grease in there. We'll call that fixed. The new volume control is working fine, so I need to extend this shaft somehow. I'll remove the control and see what I can do. I have a couple of options to make this shaft a bit longer. I could machine up a little shaft and fit it over the top there, and that would do it. I also have another one, and I think it's very similar. I think it's the same diameter, so I think I might be able to take the shaft out of that and put it in that. So I'll pull them apart and see what's inside. I've pulled the tabs back on this larger one here, or the largest shaft. Alright, I'll pull the other one apart. I think this one's ready to come off as well. It's a different thing. Yeah, it's wire wound, so nowhere near what I need. I'll go back to plan A. I'll machine up a little sleeve for this. I found a burnt out potentiometer and I cut the shaft off, so I've got that, and I've cut this off a little bit to make it a bit shorter so I can join that together. I machined up a bit of aluminium to make a sleeve up to join up together, and I think I can just use super glue. This is so tight, the tolerance is so tight that it'll work with super glue. I'll put a bit of glue on here. Actually, I'll put a fair bit on there so it gives me time to move it around. No. Gee, that was going to happen. Okay, I got one shot at that and that was it. I was going to say I'll put it on there and then let it set for a minute, then I can put it on this one. I'm going to put the super glue in here so that it doesn't try and go back into the the volume control. There we go. I have the volume controllers fitted to the radio, and as you can see it's the same length. I don't think this is the original one that was made with the radio. Somebody's changed this at some stage, so I hope the length is correct. Anyway, I'll put this back in the radio. We're nearly done. I want to do a very quick check of the alignment, so I'll turn the radio on. I have my meter here on DC, and I've connected that onto the output transformer. The generator's connected straight to the aerial. I've got the generator on about 600. A little hard to see up the top there, but that pointer is pointing to the 600 kilohertz down the bottom. And down here's the oscillator patter. There is no antenna patter, so we have to do that rocking method. I'll start the adjustment, and because this set doesn't have a patter on the antenna coil, I need to peak the oscillator and the tuning capacitor at once. So I'll get the maximum on the meter there. That's about it there. Then you need to peak this. If it goes higher, then you know that they're not both peaked. Yeah, I think that's about it. So it wasn't that far out. Alright, so the oscillator and the tuning condenser are both peaked. And as you can see, the pointer is lined up with the 600. If that had been wrong, I would have loosened this dial off and turned it around to make it 600. So the next thing to do is to go to 1500 and we'll check and see if it's lined up there. I've put the generator on 1500. There's no noise, so I'll just find it. There it is. So it's a long way away. There's a trimmer on top of each one of the tuning gangs in there, and I've got a socket here, and that should adjust the trimmer for that gang, and this is the oscillator gang. So I'll just get it so I can hear it, and then I'll turn this and it should come in. There it is. So I just keep chasing it. Turn the meter down a bit. And that's it. I'm not absolutely sure this is how you're supposed to do it. I'm pretty sure it'll be close. But then you would adjust these two to peak them as well. That one's about right. Nothing like that. And same again with this one. And that one was right too. I'll run that down, make sure the 600 is still okay. And I think that's it for the alignment. I've put the generator on 600, I'll just take it down. Hopefully it's pretty close. That's perfect. As I said, that's the alignment done. That's as much as I'm going to do to this radio. I'll hand it back to the owner. I'll run it again before I sign off. But I just wanted to say that Mike at the radio club ended up sending me the entire manual for this thing, although it doesn't actually tell you a whole lot, but yeah, that was good, so I appreciate that. Thanks, Mike, that's fantastic. Unfortunately it's probably a little bit late because I'd nearly finished it by the time I got it, but yeah, very much appreciated. I'll just give it another quick test before I go. While this warms up, those little spots on the coils, they were actually marks from animals, so I'm going to clean them up. I'll put a bit of protective varnish over them, so they'll be okay. So let's see if we've got something. There he is. Yeah, so that's lined up properly now. It was over here before we were getting this station. So that's perfect, about 612.
The two storylines are fascinating.
Yeah, so working really well. That's great.
And flight number 8 at Springvale.
So same old stations. Put it back on.
There's a guy who's existed.
Put it back on the cricket there. Alright. Working nice. The volume control worked out really well. Happy with that. I'll pack the radio up and he can come and pick it up, put it back in its cabinet, and yeah, it'll be nice. It's a nice looking radio. I will be off the air for a little while. I'm going to help my mother-in-law sell her house. We're going on a cruise, and then when I've come back and got motivation again, I'll start doing some more videos. I shouldn't be too long, maybe a month or two. So I hope you enjoyed watching me clown around with this while I searched in the wrong areas, and a good reminder to me, don't presume you know what's wrong with it. Do some of the standard troubleshooting as well. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.